I feel like I came out singing. I was a crazy little kid who just watched The Sound of Music and Mary Poppins all day, every day. But finally a voice whispered, love can be yours if you step up to the counter and order.
Jenna Gavigan recently performed at Sterling's Upstairs at Vitello's in Studio City, making her own cabaret debut.
I thought, well, there's a writer's strike. I really would like to get my voice back and get back into the swing of musical theater. I'm dying to go back to New York and do a musical. I really, really am. Or do something here at the Amundsen or the Tape or wherever they'll have me. But yeah, it's been fun planning it. I had a while to plan it, so I was able to pick songs that I really love and some that I've done before and some that I haven't.
I'm free now, give me that thing called love. I see now flying doves sing sparrow. Give me Cupid's famous arrow. Give me that thing called love.
Now living in Los Angeles, the petite New York actress started out with plans to work in musical theater, and in 2003, she made her Broadway debut opposite Bernadette Peters in a revival of Gypsy, playing a Hollywood blonde and the understudy for Dainty June.
I was 15, was I 15 when I got hired? No, I was 16 when I got hired. And they had been casting it, and they wouldn't see me for June because I was underage and they didn't want to have to tutor me. But I was convinced that I was right for this role. Jim Carnahan had hired me in something else, and I wrote him a letter. I wrote him a note. I was a lunatic back then. I don't do crazy things like this in LA, but I had nothing to lose, right? I wrote him a letter and I actually quoted the show, and I said, Jim, I'm a 5'2" bundle of dynamite, because I am exactly 5'2". I'm a 5'2" bundle of dynamite. I can play Dainty June.
And when the actress playing June took a scheduled vacation, Gavigan stepped into the role and performed the first of what would become 44 times going on as Dainty June in Gypsy.
I had a put-in that day, which put-ins are funny because the only person wearing a costume is the person being put in. And everyone else is like, can we go to lunch? Like, let's go. You know, so they're all just marking it, and I'm like, where's the cow, and how do I use the rope? And so I kind of had a little bit of, you know, a little rehearsal with the sets and everything, but ultimately, all I remember is Brandon Espinosa, who was one of the farm boys who's been in a million Broadway shows. He was behind me. In Gypsy, they transition from child to adult, and they transition with the strobe light, so the adults enter during this flashing light. So my first second on stage as June was like twitchy, you know? So Brandon goes, you have to go now. And he just pushed me on, and we did the whole thing, and I don't remember any of my show at all, because June's great. You start and you keep going, and then you're done at the end of the first act. There's no time to think, am I doing well or not? Everything's a quick change. There's absolutely no time to question yourself. I came off stage, and the little kids had been watching from the audience because they were done, and a few of the other actors, and I broke down. I kind of couldn't believe what I had done. I do remember during the strobe light thinking, oh my God, my parents are in the fifth row. And just not wanting to mess up my first squeal. I had to do a lot of squeals with kicks. And I didn't want to be squeaky and like a pubescent boy. But that's all. I came off stage and I cried into the arms of one of the ensemble women, and it was awesome. And then the first bow, of course the bow was choreographed for June. I'm not really a dancer, but they were like, we'll do a spin. So David Berko, who played Tulsa, had to like spin me out, and it was all open, and then you bow. So I didn't want to mess that up either. I had time to think. And I bowed, and everyone, you know, the curtain comes down and everyone congratulates you, and Bernadette came over and she said, you did very well. And I was like, just, you know, and I had 2 more the following day. It was wonderful.
So what does Gavigan think about this latest revival of Gypsy, which just opened on Broadway starring Patti LuPone, happening only 5 years later?
To be perfectly honest, what we were told was that Arthur Lawrence really wanted to do it again. And he should, because he wrote it and he's brilliant. And first time I met him, I giggled. I was like, hi, nice to meet you. Because, you know, he wrote West Side Story and Gypsy, and he's brilliant. And I think Patty really wanted to do it. And they got good reviews in their Encore's production, and they thought, why not? You know. I don't know anything about the production. I haven't seen it, obviously. I hope that it's different from ours, because I don't really think there's any point in reviving something unless you're going to do it in a new way, which was the great part about our production, was that Sam Mendes really gave it a new life from the last. The stage was very bare, it was dark, it was edgier, and as far as I know, it was very different from the Tyne Daly version in 1989. So I hope this one, you know, is different from ours, and then there is a purpose to revive it. I think it's the most brilliant musical ever written, so I hope people who didn't see ours go and see theirs.
Following a run of auditions in New York, including one for the lead in The Wedding Singer, a chance guest spot on ABC's pilot for Commander-in-Chief turned into an offer to head west.
I got hired out of New York. I thought it was a guest star on the pilot, and because they were shooting the pilot in Richmond, so you hire guest stars out of New York, that makes sense. And I got to my audition, and the producer says, "Are you willing to move to LA?" And I was like, okay. And I thought of my friend Heather Lee, who's singing with me tonight, and she was the only person I knew in LA. I was like, I guess I could live with Heather. You know, I loved the show. I would go anywhere for it.
And now, Gavigan has been staying busy with guest spots on a handful of network shows, although last year she got the chance to star opposite Epatha Merkerson in the Los Angeles production of Comeback Little Sheba.
I was going through the whole, all I ever did was audition and work on forensic crime drama type things, and I felt like I was just auditioning for the same thing over and over and just crying and leaving. And I heard it was coming to LA, and I read the play, and I was like, oh, I have to play her. This is awesome. And it worked out right at the end of episodic season, so I didn't miss anything. And it was just great. I worked really hard on the sides, and it was the first time in LA that I felt like I had a really good audition, because they actually worked with you. They were theater people. And I actually knew the casting director from New York, and I knew the reader from New York as well. She worked with Jim Carnahan in New York, so she had been one of my readers on Spring Awakening years and years ago. So it was great. I was just positive that I was right for it. I had no doubt, so I was just like, just gonna get it, and it was awesome.
But when the show transferred to Broadway, much of the cast, including Gavigan, was left behind.
The director just kind of, Manhattan Theater Club was like, let's just wipe the slate clean. And number one, it's super expensive to relocate an entire cast to LA. Manhattan Theater Club is not for profit, so it's not like, the Weinsteins are producing it and they have millions and millions of dollars to relocate people to the most expensive city to live in. But I think they thought, if we give it a new life, it won't be connected to the Kirk Douglas. Maybe people who saw it there will be willing to see it again in New York. And for me, honestly, I don't know if I could have handled doing the show without my entire cast with me, especially without Alan Rosenberg and Josh Cook, who were I wasn't on stage with anybody but my two boyfriends, Alan Rosenberg and Epatha. And I would have been able to handle it had they, decided to do that. But you get something in your mind and you get used to people and you start, really working well together. And I know myself, and I would have been comparing, and I would have been attached to the LA memories. And I'm glad we had a very nice run here. Lovely group of people.
With an independent movie in the works, Gavigan is keeping busy, both on screen and off, as her recent Cabaret show proves.
When skies are gray and you say you are blue, I'll send the sun smiling through.
Why are you telling me? Why are you telling me? Why are you
you telling me my new philosophy? The critic hated me on last week's guest star.
I know, I read
she
it.
She said, Miss Jenna G, you look too old to me. I should have told her.
Your new philosophy.
My new philosophy.
Here, I'll be her.
Hurry and track him down. Attack him and marry the man today. Give him the girlish laughter. Give him your hand today and save the fist for after.
Now you're learning. Slowly introduce him to the better things. Respectable, conservative, and clean.
Reader's Digest.
Guy Lombardo.
Rogers Pete.
Golf.
Galoshes.
Ovaltine.
But marry the man today. Handle it meek and gently.
Marry the man today and train him subsequently.
And although I may go, I'll be coming home soon. 'Cause I don't want to live on the moon. No, I don't want to live on the moon.
In Los Angeles, I'm James Sims for BroadwayWorld.com.